Welcome to the next video. I thought I was about done making them, but there's still a lot I want to go over. So in this one, we're looking at Hamlet from the first two Quartos, published in 1603 and 04, and Shakespeare's First Folio, published in 1623. I haven't read it, but from what I understand, the text from the first Quarto is quite different from the second and folio versions of the play. It's been suggested this may have been, and I'm quoting from an article I found on a website, a pirate edition put together from memory by one of the players. I'm not so sure about that, because I think I found some clues that tell us Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford, was here. The first thing to notice is that the period or point is missing after the word elsewhere. This should draw your attention. When you look above it, there's what I think is an obvious clue. For anyone who's been following these videos or anyone who's done their own research into de Vere codes, this should be suspect. The word universities has been hyphenated after the letter U, which is also a V. It follows the word to, so when you read what's here at the end of the line, it spells 2V. Edward de Vere sometimes signed his name double V, and two V's are often used with codes found throughout the Shakespeare works. Now this 2V or double V is going to help unlock what's here. Reading it the way I'm suggesting, it's no longer part of the word universities and is counted as two separate words. And there's this. The letters printed above the 2V, SER, hyphenated from the word servants, continued on the next line. The gematria value of the letters SER are 18, 5, and 17, which happen to add up to 40. Now check it out. Counting from the letters SER equal to 40, Oxford is word 17. Vance, hyphenated from servants, is word 1, and the are words 2 and 3, cities word 4, and so on. Remember, 2V is counted as two separate words. Or, counting from Oxford the Rosicrucian way right to left, SER equal to 40 is the 17th word. Either way, it's Oxford 1740, and if you haven't noticed it yet, look at the words right before it. His Highness, followed by the Oxford 1740 code. We'll get to more of that later. To have the letters hyphenated, spelling 2V and letters that just so happen to add up to 40, typeset 17 words from Oxford, yeah, I don't think it happened randomly. Alright, now we're looking at page 1 of the first Quarto. Like with other Shakespeare works, it has the AA headpiece. The numbers in the left margin are unnamed characters in the play. If we add these numbers up, they total 14. Printers of the day use the same character for 1 and the letter I. Counting the letter I's as 1, there are 3 on the page, also near the left margin. Adding all these characters that are numbers together, 14 and 3 is 17. And along with these numbers, on or near the left margin, there are 4 T's. So on the first page of the first Quarto of Hamlet, we have 17-4T, Edward de Vere's cipher. This is something I really don't think happened by chance. Also, next to the word will, there's a 1 and an I, but it's also 2 Roman numeral 1s, making an 11. Eleven is a double 1 and resembles a Gemini symbol, meaning a twin. There's one beneath the face of William Shakespeare in the Folio's Droeshout portrait. In video 48, I explained how the collar is encoded with the number 17. There are 2 pointed lines on the left, 4 on the right, and an 11 in the middle. 2, 4, and 11 is 17. It's part of a 1740 code that I cover in the video. The 11 or Gemini beneath Shakespeare's face also suggests he has a double. And in Shakespeare's sonnets, the word will is printed in italics 11 times. These are all hints that Will Shakespeare has a double or a twin. I think who that twin is hinted at right here. Following the two Roman numeral 1s and the word will, there are 17 characters. I think it's telling us that Will's double is 17, the number of the Earl of Oxford. Also, the 17 characters that follow double one will compose 4 words. In addition to the 4 words, there's a colon and a period. The colon and period are comprised of 3 dots or points. In Monas Hieroglyphica, John Dee explains that he uses Latin, Greek, and Hebrew, and in ancient or classical Greek, 3 is equivalent to tau, or the letter T. So following double one will, there are 17 characters comprised of 4 words and 3 points equal to T. Will's double is 17 for T. If the first quarto of Hamlet was written from memory by an actor, then who was it who knew that Edward de Vere was double V and that his cipher was 1740, which I think was encoded into the cover? The same with the first page, printed beneath the AA headpiece. There's de Vere's cipher 1740 and the Gemini and Will, also followed by Oxford cipher. I don't think this happened randomly. Someone is letting us know that this is Edward de Vere's work, and since he was still alive at the time, I don't think he would have just left this for some actor to write it for him. Now we're looking at the second quarto, published the next year. There's no missing punctuation, but like the first quarto, I think we're supposed to focus on the middle section. It's comprised of 19 words, and in Latin the gematria value of 19 is equivalent to the letter T. T or tau is 19 in Latin and 3 in Greek. Again though, John Dee uses Latin, Greek, and Hebrew, what he refers to as the primary alphabets of the 3 languages. If we replace the 19 words with the letter T, specifically a capital letter T because it's in the shape of a cross, it becomes the 4th capital T or 4th T on the page. This method of replacing 19 words or the 19th word with T is found in the earlier Shakespeare poems Venus and Adonis and Lucrece. If we then count all of the capital letters, the 4th T is also the 17th letter. This means that after the byline by William Shakespeare, we get Edward de Vere's cipher 1740. Now, is that a coincidence? I don't know, because it's also found on the earlier cover. Going back to the first quarto and the missing punctuation from the middle section, it draws attention to the 2V, but what if it's also a hint to keep counting? If we start counting from the period after Shakespeare to the end of the page, we get a certain number. These smaller periods help designate the word count. The initials NL I read are for Nicholas Ling and are counted as 2 words. The year 1603, demarcated by the periods after it and John Trundle's name on the preceding line, is counted as a single word. And in the artwork, there are the initials NL, again for Nicholas Ling. Basically, everything is counted in between the 2 larger periods, from Shakespeare to the year at the end of the page. There are 28 words in the middle section, 2 in the artwork, and 10 in the final lines. 28, 2, and 10 is 40. 40 is a homophone of 4T. Like with the second quarto, if we count the number of capital letter T's, the 40 or 4T is the fourth T on the page. And again, like the second quarto, if we count all the capital letters, the fourth T is the 17th letter. Also with both covers, Shakespeare is the 11th word, followed by the 1740. Have the covers been typeset to tell us that Shakespeare's twin, or double one, is Edward de Vere? Alright, now looking at the opening page of the second quarto, it's written differently than the previous one. I'm not going to read them out loud, but you can pause the screen if you want to check them out. Notice, though, that the second quarto begins with double V and has the word king on the third line, whereas the page from the first quarto doesn't have either. We're going to start counting the words from the first line of the play as listed in the margin. Counting from the beginning, king is the 17th word. Looking at the line with the word king, the double V extends into it. If we count from the beginning of the line and include the characters from the double V, there are 17 characters followed by king. If we count the words after king, the 17th word is 12 or 12, and this is significant. I've explained many times why I think 12 is sometimes used for 40 or 4T. One reason is the gematria equivalent of the number 12 in Latin, which is M. The same letter in Greek and Hebrew is 40. But this should leave no doubt. Like I showed earlier from this ancient Greek gematria chart that Alexander Waugh has in one of his videos, the letter T or tau is equal to 3. Three times 4 is 12, so in Greek, 4 taus or 4T equals 12. I knew I was right about this and had a few different ways of trying to explain it, but had overlooked the Greek gematria chart. I've been trying to convince people that 12 is equal to 4T pretty much since I've been posting videos, so hopefully this does it. On a side note, there are codes where Edward de Vere is referred to as the fourth T, and there are 12 letters in his name. There are many examples where 12 is used for 4T, which I go over in other videos. Okay, so from king to 12 is 17 words. 12 is equivalent to 4T, so it's king 1740. Looking closer at the line, there are also 17 characters before 12. Again, 1740. Now here's the thing. I began the line count from where the play starts as seen in the margin note. But if we count the T's on the page, the fourth T is here. There are 3 capital letter T's in the title, The Tragedy of Hamlet, and the fourth capital T begins the word tis. It then starts a rebus that's an inverted or upside down T, which reads, and I am 4 T's. This image is from part 1 of Alexander Waugh's video, Where is Shakespeare Really Buried? In the Sonnet's dedication grid is a cross potent comprised of 4 crosses or 4 T's. The letters spelling de Vere appear as an upside down 4th T, and if you look below it are letters spelling fourth. Exactly what the 4th T means we're still trying to figure out. Maybe it's a certain level of initiation in a secret society or the title of a master. When Jesus was baptized, there was God, the Holy Spirit in the form of a dove, Jesus, and John the Baptizer. A correspondent named Jack believes this scene reveals John to be the 4th T. In the Gospels, Jesus refers to John as the greatest of all men. John's highly revered in Freemasonry and one of their patron saints. so maybe the fourth T associates the recipient of the name to the greatest of all men. Now if we underline the text going upwards from the end of the page, there's the letter B, printer's collation mark. Then in a smaller font is an abbreviation for Marcellus, which is the catchword for the next page. Then there's the play's last line of the page. If we count all these lines going upwards, the 17th line begins the upside down "and I am 4 T's" rebus. Interestingly, if we count from the first line of the play, the start of the 4T rebus is on line 7. 740 or 74T would have been Edward de Vere's king and code number. Alright, so the second quarto of Hamlet has 1740 codes on the first page that are connected to the word king. Beginning with line 1, king is the 17th word. And before king, there are 17 characters. 17 words later is the word 12th, which stands for 4T. And before 12th or 4T, there are 17 characters. Also on that line, which is the 17th line from the end of the page, there's a rebus with the words "and I am 4 T's," which I think represents an upside down fourth T. Now we're looking at Hamlet from the First Folio, which begins on page 152. This number can be added a few different ways, and I'm not sure if it's the intention, but 15 plus 2 adds to 17. It starts out with the same words as the second quarto. Some of them are spelled a little differently, but the word king is again the 17th word. Even though it's typeset differently, we still get the same amount of characters on that line. The double V extends into it from the preceding lines, and in the folio appears as a decorated letter W put at the beginning. The "and I am 4 T's" rebus that's in the second quarto doesn't appear in the folio version because the typesetting's different. There's a different line count, and in the quarto the characters' names are right next to the margin. When the words they're speaking continue into the next line, that line is indented. It's the opposite with the folio. The characters' names are away from the margin, with any continued lines printed next to it. Something that may have been added in the folio, though, is on line 7, just beneath the double V character. The words are "bar he." In Aramaic, bar means son, and he, or he, means behold. Printed beneath the double V, does this mean de Vere, behold the sun? I believe Francis Bacon could have been familiar with some words in Hebrew, and I don't think it's a stretch that he could have known these couple words in Aramaic. Most of what I just went over we already saw in the second quarto. In the folio, it's on the next page, 153, that we get something different. We're looking at the second column. What's significant here is that it's in the second scene where Hamlet, the titular character, makes his entrance, and the king, Claudius, first speaks. The section is divided into the description, which is 17 words, and the king's opening speech, which is 40 lines before the next character speaks. From the top of the page to where the king first speaks are 17 lines. Following the word king are 4 T's. We're still looking at the king's opening speech. There's a break in it as other characters enter. Counting upwards from the break, there are 17 lines, and we get another 4 T's. Earlier in the king's speech, he says the word kingdom, but the first time he says the word king is here, and it's followed by 17 words till the speech ends on line 40. To me, it looks like someone's trying to say something about the king in 1740. Are the covers of the two Quartos typeset to encode Edward de Vere's cipher 1740? Seems a strange coincidence if they're not. However, after seeing double V used in numerous de Vere Shakespeare codes and then finding 2V on the cover of the first quarto, just above missing punctuation, and then having Oxford 17 words from letters that just so happen to add to 40, this seems like design to me. And have it following the words His Highness, I think it's telling us Oxford is a king of some kind. And page 1 of the first quarto I think was done by design as well. 1740 along the left margin and double one will followed by 1740. Someone left these clues. Was it an actor or was it Oxford? And I particularly like the upside down and I am 4 T's rebus. I think these clues tell us that Edward de Vere was responsible for Hamlet, including the first quarto. I keep finding 1740 king codes and we'll be revealing more of them in the next video. There's one that just gives us the name King Oxford and it's right where you'd expect to find it. When you can predict where they're going to be found, I think it leaves no doubt they were done by design. I hope to have that video posted soon, and thanks for watching this one.